While tending to a task at a client's residence, I caught a glimpse of my wife, Sarah, entering the house next door. At first, I brushed it off as a mere coincidence. Perhaps she was visiting a neighbor or handling a quick errand. But as I watched her from the corner of my eye, a heavy unease gripped my heart. That house had been vacant for months, and her unannounced visit struck me as odd. I tried to push aside the growing suspicion, but my mind began to race, unable to let go of the nagging doubt. I needed to understand what was happening. If you enjoy stories like this, please consider supporting more by subscribing. It helps keep these tales alive. I wasn't unfamiliar with the feeling that something was off. Over the past few months, Sarah had become increasingly distant. Her once vibrant affection replaced by a quiet withdrawal I couldn't fully comprehend. The spark that had once ignited our bond had dimmed, giving way to a strange coldness. We rarely argued, but the silences between us had grown thick, almost suffocating. I noticed her engrossed in her phone for hours, her attention elsewhere, her eyes avoiding mine in ways they never had before. I told myself it was just a temporary strain, that life's pressures were pulling us apart for a moment. But seeing her slip into that empty house shattered my fragile attempts to dismiss my fears. Something was profoundly amiss. Unable to stay still, I stepped outside, keeping my distance as I observed her disappear behind the neighboring door. My heart raced as I lingered in the shadows, my gaze locked on her path. Why was she there? What was going on? After what felt like an eternity, I saw her approach the entrance. The lights inside flickered on, and a man appeared, welcoming her with a warm grin. I couldn't make out his face clearly, but what followed crushed me. She mirrored his smile with a warmth I hadn't seen in ages, too familiar, too intimate. My mind spun. That smile, once meant only for me, now belonged to another. Was this man someone from her past? A new friend? Or a secret she'd kept from me? They entered the house together, and I stood frozen, torn between bursting in to confront her and remaining paralyzed by shock. Every instinct screamed to storm through that door, but dread of the truth held me back. Instead, I retreated to my car, my thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and pain. The person I trusted most, the one I'd given my heart to, was inside with another man. The drive home passed in a blur of anguish and disbelief. I tried to convince myself I'd misread the situation, that I was leaping to conclusions, but deep down, I knew the truth was inescapable. Sarah had betrayed me in a way I never thought possible, and all I wanted was answers. When Sarah came home that evening, I was slouched on the sofa, grappling with my chaotic thoughts. She walked in with her usual smile, the one that once felt like a safe haven. But tonight it seemed forced, laced with unease. My stomach twisted as I watched her closely. Would she deceive me? Would she try to hide what I'd seen? "Hey, darling," she said, her voice straining for normalcy as she slipped off her coat. "Where were you earlier?" I asked, keeping my voice calm despite the storm raging within. I needed the truth. I couldn't pretend I hadn't witnessed her actions. Her eyes flashed with surprise, then darted away as if searching for an excuse. "I told you, I was tied up at work. The project ran late," she replied. I stared at her, my pulse pounding. Her words were a lie, and I wasn't going to let it pass. "No, Sarah, you weren't at work. I saw you. I saw you enter the house next door with him." Her face paled, caught in her deception. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, she sank into the chair beside me, her hands trembling. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Michael, I never meant to hurt you. I've been seeing him for some time. I'm so sorry." Her admission struck me like a physical blow, stealing my breath. The pain, the shock, the crushing weight of her betrayal overwhelmed me. The woman I'd loved for years, the one I thought I knew completely, had been involved with someone else. It wasn't a momentary lapse. It had been ongoing for months. "I don't know how it began," she went on, tears streaming down her face. "It just happened. I never intended for this, Michael. I thought I could keep it from you, but I was wrong. I was selfish and I've hurt you. I never wanted this." I sat there, numb, struggling to process her words. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, but I was paralyzed. All I could do was stare as my world fell apart. The life we'd built, the love we'd shared, now felt like a fading illusion, replaced by a harsh, painful reality. The silence between us was heavy, suffocating. I didn't know how to respond, what to do next. I'd given her everything, my trust, my heart, and now it all felt like a lie. I need time, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I need time to think, Sarah. I can't do this now. She nodded, her eyes brimming with regret, understanding the weight of my words. I'm so sorry, Michael. I'll leave if that's what you need. For days, I barely slept, my mind consumed by her betrayal. Everything I thought I knew about our marriage had been turned upside down. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again, if I could ever see her the same way. But as time passed, something shifted. I realized I couldn't live in the shadow of her deception. I couldn't hold on to a life built on lies. I had to let go, even if it meant losing the life I'd known. I filed for divorce. It was a heart-wrenching choice, but it was necessary. Sarah tried to apologize, begged for a second chance, but I knew our marriage was beyond repair. The months that followed were agonizing. I moved into a small apartment, starting over, rebuilding my life piece by piece. The pain lingered, but I learned that healing takes time. I rediscovered old passions, hobbies I'd long neglected, and slowly found moments of calm. A year later, I sat in a quiet cafe, watching rain pour down the windows. My thoughts no longer dwelled on Sarah or her betrayal. Instead, I reflected on my journey. How far I'd come, how much I'd grown. I'd been broken, but I'd pieced myself back together. For the first time in a long time, I felt free, unburdened. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't losing the person you thought would always be there. It's letting go of the past and embracing the uncertainty of what lies ahead. As I watched the rain wash the world clean outside, I knew I was ready for whatever the future might bring.